Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today's recipe for an Asian pulled pork is so simple to make. You're not gonna believe it. So, the first thing we're gonna do is open up the lid of the Ninja Foodi. We're going to put the pork under pressure. So what I have here is 2.5 pounds of a pork butt or pork shoulder. This is bone out, but you could use bone in as well. You could also do it from frozen. You would just set your time to 90 minutes. However, mine is thawed, so we're gonna put it under pressure for 60 minutes. So to the pot, I'm gonna add 3 cups of just plain tap water. Now the idea here is to have the pork pretty much completely submerged in the liquid. So if you need to put in more water, go ahead. We're gonna add some more seasonings after it pressure cooks, so don't worry about diluting the seasonings that we have going on right now. I also have 1 cup of rice vinegar. Put that in. A 1/4 cup of plain white sugar. 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. 1/2 tablespoon of salt. Just give that a little stir around. And we're gonna plop in the pork. No need to trim it or anything. And mine is about 3/4 of the way submerged, and that will be fine. So we're gonna get our pressure lid on, line up the arrows here on the front, give it a turn. Make sure the valve is to the seal position. That's very important, or you're gonna run out of all your liquid. It's gonna steam instead. Turn the Ninja Foodi on. Go to pressure on high. The time is gonna be 60 minutes. All right, there we go. So we're gonna let this go for 60 minutes and then we'll do an immediate release. And before you start screaming at me, no, you don't immediately release meats. Ordinarily you don't. However, this is going to be completely submerged in the liquid by the time that the cook time is up. So you don't need to wait. If your meat is submerged in liquid, you can do an immediate release and things will be fine. It's when your meat is raised above the water level that you want to do a natural release, because what happens when you release the pressure and the meat is above the water line, it sucks the moisture out of the meat. But if the meat is below the water line, that's not gonna happen. And so with the juices and the fat that's gonna render out of this pork, it will be completely submerged by the end of the 60 minutes and we can do an immediate release. Then we'll just add in a few more seasonings and we'll get our Asian pulled pork plated up. So the pot with our Asian pork came up to pressure really fast, and now it's on the countdown. So what I want to do is get some vegetables into a quick pickle, because this is going to make a great condiment for the top of our sandwich. So if you're going to put it on like a hamburger bun, you would just put some of these pickled vegetables on top and it's absolutely delicious. Or you could get a little bit fancier and put it in an Asian steam bun. And if you haven't had an Asian steam bun before, don't worry. I'm gonna show you how to make those too. So I just have an old jar that I cleaned that had some pickles in it. And I warmed up 1/2 cup of water and put in 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm gonna add in 1/2 cup of rice vinegar. And that's our pickling liquid. So I chopped up some ginger pretty thin, okay? You want your slices to be pretty thin. So I just peeled it with a spoon and I chopped that up. So I'm gonna add that in. Now I've got a little piece here left over that's too big. We're not gonna pickle it, but I'm gonna grate it because we're gonna add it to our pork. So I'm just gonna put those in. I also thinly chopped up some onions. So I'm gonna put those in. Now you could use whatever vegetables you like. These just work really well, I think, with the Asian pork. And it's so easy to do. And then I just have these like little peppers. These are not hot peppers. These are actually sweet peppers. I get them in a bag, but a red bell pepper would work. Or, if you don't like peppers, don't put them in. That looks like, I think I'm gonna slice this one up too here. And don't worry if the seeds get in there, that's no problem because they'll come out in the liquid. So to slice up the pepper, I'm just going down with my knife really thin slices, pretty much as thin as I can get. Now these are a little bit older and sometimes they don't cut all the way through, although they did a pretty good job. So just get these little rings. And again, a regular red bell pepper will work fine too. Then for the carrots, I did like little matchsticks, and I wasn't exact. I did it fairly quickly, but I did want to show you how, let me move this out of the way so you can see how we do that. So anytime you have something round, you want to get a flat surface right away, okay? You need that to be safe. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off here, and now I've got a flat surface to work with. Now this piece, I'm gonna go ahead and just slice up to get the little matchstick sizes. Now this one, I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna cut that in half again, and then I'm gonna go down here and just slice these, and then slice them in half. And it really is that easy to get the matchstick. You can make them as big or as thin as you want. They'll take more time to pickle though if they're thicker, so I try to make them pretty thin. And watch your fingers. Definitely want to watch your fingers there. Oops. I didn't get that one even. No problems. No worries. Okay, now let's stuff all this in the jar too. I like to keep this in the refrigerator. I mean, they'll last forever pretty much. So make them up ahead of time, keep them in the refrigerator, and anytime you want that sweet and tangy, like little topping for a sandwich or a salad or anything, these are just wonderful to grab. And they're so pretty. So just shove them in there. Pour in the liquid. Now hopefully this is enough liquid. I made a few more vegetables than I normally do. But if it's not and it doesn't cover them all, which this one almost covered, you know what? Press it down, it'll be fine. But I would probably add maybe another 1/4 cup of liquid in there. I'm not gonna worry about it today. Actually, you know what? I am gonna worry about it, but you don't need to watch me do it. What I'm gonna do is add 2 tablespoons of hot water and 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, just to get this water level so that everything's submerged. Because this is a quick pickle, and the tops are not gonna get pickled. They're not gonna get any flavor if they're not completely submerged. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna throw this in the refrigerator, and by the time our pork is done, our vegetables will be pickled. So I want to recap real quick because after the Ninja Foodi came up to pressure and we cooked for 60 minutes, I did an immediate release and the pork still was not done. So I put it back in for 30 more minutes, which I found very interesting because the couple of times I've tested this recipe, it was with frozen pork shoulder, same amount though, 2.5 pounds, and the 90 minutes was good. So I decreased that, thinking that, oh, it's not frozen. But 30 minutes was way too much time to decrease it. So you are gonna probably have to cook it anywhere between, I would say, 75 and 90 minutes. But just to be safe, I just put it on another 30 minutes. So it's been cooking for 90 minutes. And now we just did an immediate release. So we can open it up and let's hope that it's shreddable because that is the goal here. We want it to be super tender and just kind of fall apart. So let's see. And now it is, okay? So now I can just reach in there and I can just grab out a chunk and it's very tender. So I'm gonna transfer the meat. Yeah, I'm gonna transfer it into this bowl too. Okay, so I'm gonna transfer the meat out. We are gonna pour the juice out. We don't need all that juice, or all that liquid, I guess I should say. I'm just gonna put this in here. And this will give you a chance to get out any large pieces of fat and anything that you just don't want in your final dish. Oh my gosh, it smells so good though. Wow. You get the vinegar. It's just, oh, it is really delicious smelling. Okay, I'm just gonna pour the liquid into here. So be very careful when you do this because the pot is super hot. This is an 8-cup measuring bowl and it looks like it's just fitting. All right. Perfect, perfect. Now you can set this back in. Now what I'm gonna do is take off about a half of a cup of this liquid to add back in. We don't need all of it, but I'm gonna use a half of a cup. So I'm just gonna measure that out. Now, if you wanted, you could take the meat out of here and then you could let this cool and you could actually get the fat off the top if you wanted. I'm not gonna worry about that today though. I'm just hoping I can lift this. And it is hot because it's glass, so it's, okay. Okay, be very careful when you pour that. It is super, super hot. All right. That's good. So that's our half of a cup. So now what I'm going to do is just take this meat and just take it back out and put it in the inner pot. And I'm going to try to keep off any of like the big pieces of fat that I see. Now you could lay this on the cutting board and it would probably be a little bit easier, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to kind of pick through with my tongs here. Oh, I just can't even tell you how good this smells. Oh my goodness. It is amazing. Now, I wouldn't throw this liquid away. Like if you make any kind of Asian dishes, this would be a great stock. You know, to use instead of chicken stock. I'm just gonna break this up to see if I see any types of, you know, any pieces of fat that I wanna get out of there. But no, everything looks pretty good. Because this is so hot, I decided to grab a little fork because there was some fat on there. I just want to kind of shred off before I put it back in. I mean, the fat adds a lot of flavor, but I don't want to bite into it when I put it on my steam bun. All right. Now, probably a better way to do this, honestly, would have been to strain it, and next time I would definitely do that. It would just save some time, I think, because I might even have to strain this just to make sure I get all the meat out. So I'll probably go back and do that. But for right now, that's good. All right, so I'm gonna move this to the side. And we're gonna put in the rest of our ingredients, which is a half of a cup of that stock that we just made. So we're gonna put that in. I'm gonna put in about a quarter cup of diced sweet peppers. These are not hot peppers. Now you could use hot chili peppers if you really like a lot of spice, but these are not, these are sweet. And I'm just gonna dump those in. And honestly, I'm mostly doing that for color. I found that the pork just didn't have enough vibrance on its own, so I wanted to add that in for color. And then what I have here is 1 teaspoon of grated ginger, fresh ginger, and 1 teaspoon of minced garlic cloves. And I get the question a lot about, you know, when to use garlic powder, when to use garlic salt, when to use fresh garlic, when to mince it, when to roast it. And basically, when it comes to fresh garlic, you wanna mince it when you want a very strong garlic flavor. You wanna roast it when you want a very mild garlic flavor. The smaller the mince or the dice, the more garlic flavor you're gonna have in your dish. So with this, I want that garlic to pop. This has got a lot of strong flavors and I want that. If I was making something that I just wanted to hint at the garlic, I might roast the garlic first. This is 1.5 tablespoons of honey. 1 tablespoon of red chili pepper paste that I make myself, and I will write the recipe up in the recipe post. However, you can also buy it at a lot of grocery stores, and it is Gourmet Garden, and it's normally in the produce section where they have refrigerated herbs. This is a half of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, totally optional, but I like my pork spicy, especially when I'm doing Asian. And this is the juice from 1 orange, just 1 regular medium-sized orange. It is a little over 1/4 cup, but actually it's exactly 1/4 cup. And that's what you want, 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed orange juice, or you could use orange juice, you know, out of a jar or bottle. Or if you had a can of pineapple, you could put pineapple juice in this too. So now what I'm gonna do is just sort of mix it up and break up that pork into smaller pieces. And I'm working on steamed buns so that we have something to put this delicious pork on. And while they're finishing up, I'm just gonna put this on the slow cooker function. Now you could totally just put it on sear saute, but because I'm gonna be a little bit of time, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the slow cooker. You are never gonna overcook this pork, seriously. So go ahead, feel free to put it on the slow cooker or the keep warm, but I'm gonna put it on the slow cooker. And to do that, we are just gonna go slow cook. High is fine, start 4 hours. It's not gonna take us that long. And then you wanna put your lid on, but you also wanna make sure that your lid is vented. So this is one of the times when we want the extra steam to escape. We don't want it to be pressurized. We want it to be vented. And then I'm just gonna finish making up these Asian steam buns, which I will definitely link to that video right there because this pork goes delicious with the steam buns. And then we'll get to tasting our Asian pork. So let's go ahead and lift the lid. Now you don't have to do any pressure releasing because no pressure was built. So we just release the lid and place that over here. So let's just kind of mix up our pork a little bit. It's nice and juicy. Oh, it's shredded even more just from being on the slow cook. Now I'm gonna take out a piece just to make sure that it's seasoned well. You always wanna make sure that you season your food as you go and then at the end. So let's give it a little taste and see if it needs any salt or any other seasonings. It's good. It's really good, but it does need some salt. I'm not gonna put a lot, probably about 1/2 teaspoon, which means that this entire recipe just has 1 teaspoon of salt, which is pretty good because it's gonna feed a lot of people. All right, now mix that in. Oh, man, that's delicious. Okay, so our pickled vegetables that we made earlier, they have been in the refrigerator about an hour. Well, actually, they've been in the refrigerator about 3 hours. Oh, perfect. They're crunchy, but you definitely get that vinegar and just a touch of sweetness. Now, if you like your pickled vegetables a little bit sweeter, I would add in 2 tablespoons of sugar because they are not very sweet, but it is gonna pair very nicely with the pork and these magical steamed buns. If you've ever had Asian steamed buns, you are gonna recognize this little beauty here. They are so fantastic, made right in the Ninja Foodi, and I will link to that right up there. And they're gonna make the perfect vehicle to put our pork into. But if you don't wanna make those, you can certainly put the pork on a bun, or a piece of bread on, a lettuce wrap with this pork would be delicious. All right, so I'm gonna get out some of the pork, and then let's just pull one of those peppers out. Look at that. And now let's get some of these vegetables. Put a couple of carrots, pepper. Let's make sure we get an onion. And then we cannot forget that ginger. That ginger is something special. And I don't usually like pickled ginger, but there's something about this recipe that just makes the ginger explode in your mouth. It's so delicious. All right, so here we go. Here we go. I'm looking forward to this. Wow. Now, I didn't get any of the ginger, so I'm gonna take another bite. That's my excuse anyway. It's delicious. I mean, really good. Really good. So delicious. I can't get over how tender this pork is, and that's because it was a fatty cut. So pork shoulder does really well in the Ninja Foodi or any pressure cooker. So do ribs. Things like pork chops and thinner cuts of pork, they don't always hold up so well under pressure. So I'm still working on that, but I'm thinking the Tender Crisp lid and air crisping is the ticket for those. You'll be seeing videos on that soon.